Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be talking about collectives. Now the collectives have been in the game for a few days. We have had a better chance to wrap our heads around them. I know a lot of people are still struggling to figure them out exactly, so I will kind of make a collectives how-to or a guide video in a sense, what you should do, what you shouldn't do type of thing. What helps you most, what doesn't help you much at all, because there are a few kind of pitfalls and people keep asking about that on streams. But this video is more kind of like discussing my thoughts and opinions about collectives now that they have launched, now that we can see the difference of what rank collectives people are at individually, and what most of the whales are at, effectively hitting that 2021 mark, and what potential impact it will have on the game, because quite obviously, the benefits from the collectives, if we take a look at the champions, can be quite massive, quite huge. It's 18% attack and health increase. Then we have, for instance, for mutants, special attack damage, which is quite huge for all the mutants, especially if they have Downtis. Then prowess potency, obviously that's helpful too. Class advantage plus 5%. Downted potency, special advantage, special critical rating is increased, so specials will crit more. Block proficiency, once Downted and power shield is up. Block proficiency in general, regeneration potency, bonus neuroshock damage, and block penetration and neuroshock potency. And that's quite a long list of benefits. That is, a 20% attack and health boost basically, and a whole bunch of extra. So ultimately, when it comes to collectives, I think it was yet another one of those things that Kabam had a chance to make them absolutely unobjectionable and good, and they kind of missed it. Because, objectively, I like collectives. I don't think it's an awful idea. I think that, that you're building your account over the years and ranking up your champions, every single bit of that kind of like contributing towards something tangible, something visible, some achievable milestones and marks. I think that is good. I think this is something that the game missed, and I think that in itself makes sense. In essence, currently your time and experience and patience and grind in the game was largely intangible benefits every time a power level gets unlocked. And what I mean by that is, if you made a brand new account today and you started spending like crazy, effectively top level account power, somebody could outpace, a 9-year veteran very easily. You start spending in the banquet event, spend throughout the entire year, and as soon as basically that's when, let's say, 6-star rank 6s become available, and you can easily have way more 6-star rank 6s than somebody who has played the game for 10 years, and you're going to be ahead of that person in top-end account progression. You'll have gotten, majority of the champions. The only difference there would be that you haven't, necessarily maybe collected all the champions or ranked up a bunch of 2, 3, 4, or 5, or 6 stars, because you have just kind of skipped those champion life cycles at top-end power. And from that point of view, I think collectives again genuinely do kind of make sense, because this does let every kind of mundane crystal pull be a neat little, oh okay, that's nice, when you get extra 6 stones on some random 7 stars that you don't care about at all. For instance, I don't know, in my case, I'm gonna make somebody mad right now, but in my case, let's say I could not care less about Black Widow Deadly Origins. I know she's not awful, but she's not a champion I ever particularly look at investing for, and she's like SIG 80. And getting 26 stones on her would generate 0 emotions from me, from like a 7-star crystal. Now, getting her SIG up from a 7-star crystal, I'll be like, neat, I'm getting some collective points. I feel like I'm progressing towards something. So I think that is good. And I think the benefits, again, make the rest of the game kind of like more chill, less stressful. This also kind of could help newer players progress better too, as they start getting, a little bit of extra attack and health increase as they're going through content. Combine that with boosts, everything else. It is again kind of like a helpful thing for newer players too, if you take away the competitive game modes, obviously. And that is like one thing where I do think Kabam mocked it up again. And before I go any further, I do want to make it clear, like obviously nobody's against Kabam, introducing advantages to the whales and monetizing game, and that is, self-explanatory. This is a business, although this is the first game where I have seen half of the gaming population vividly defend monetization increases in the game. There's literally thousands of players, especially on Kabam forums, that will, defend anything that Kabam does, regardless of how bad it is for themselves. And I haven't experienced that at all. Kabam has kind of like brainwashed people into thinking that $1,000 on a game a month is perfectly reasonable thing to do, or even like $200 a month on a game. That is not normal. That is a lot of money. $200 is a lot of money for like 90%, 95% of the population, really. And in here, there's going to be thousands of people defending Kabam, trying to squeeze every last penny out of the players. So that is a bit weird to me. But where I said that Kabam kind of mocked it up, again, to my liking, and that is introducing collectives to PvP game modes. I think that absolutely was not needed. I think Battlegrounds and Alliance Wars should have been kept alone. Bring it in Alliance Quest, share, bring it in every other game mode, make easier time for whales to clear whatever challenge content they are creating. But when you do introduce this yet another aspect of kind of like monetization advantage in PvP game modes, it is yet again one more thing that is working against the core idea of this being a fighting game, and it's working towards the idea that this is effectively just a collection store where ultimately you buy your status and then the fights themselves matter significantly less, especially in Battlegrounds, where due to the nature of how Ascension has been rolled out, it is already incredibly hard, harder than it has ever been to compete with larger accounts. And this is perhaps a topic for a separate video, but I do think it is worth pointing out that every single change that Kabam has made and or tested in like last half a year has been heavily favored towards giving competitive advantage to the most massive of the spenders. Because again, if you do spend more money than anybody else, you do already get a lot of inbuilt advantage into that. You get the newest champions, the fastest, and at that point they are at their most powerful as defenders. At that point people don't know how to fight them, so that gives you a lot of advantage in itself. You will obviously have much better choice in your roster construction because you're going to have many more champions ranked up at a higher level. You're going to have many, in-fight advantages by having champions at a higher level. Now Kabam has tacked in Ascensions to all of that, which is effectively kind of like a multiplying factor to that, without giving a pathway for non-whales to acquire new champion Ascensions. That is brutal. And then collectives being tacked up on all of that. Effectively, the whalier you are, the bigger boost you have in every fight, every matchup that you do. That is massive. But there are a lot more things that Kabam has been doing, in my opinion, specifically to help less skilled whales achieve better results in competitive game modes, especially Battlegrounds, which is a very good explanation of why Battlegrounds right now is so shit. And I know this is a collectives video rather than Battlegrounds video, so I'm going to keep this tight. But the easiest proof, quote unquote, here that I can give you guys is very simple. Think about all the experimental 3 seasons that we have had. First season we did 40 and 5. How do you think who it helps the most? Increasing the Battlegrounds deck size obviously helps the whales more because they have more higher ranked up champions that would fit specifically for the metas, and that is just innately increasing the advantage of the bigger account. That is one. The second change that they did was non-saga defenders degen their health and throughout the entire fight and effectively kill themselves quickly. That, how do you think who it helps by far and away the most? Because for me, I basically had like 3 defenders in that off season. that I had ranked up, and then, you know, I was using 6-star rank 5s and 7-star rank 2s in my Battlegrounds deck because I just didn't have the defenders ranked up. That was also like a massive advantage to the whales, because the more champions you have ranked up, the whalier your account is, you know, the better defense and better roster you will have there. That was extremely restricting and impossible for, you know, an average account to kind of like build a proper deck for. I think Kabam realized that might be going too far even. And this last change, where remaining health doesn't matter, again eliminates skill from the equation, and therefore by default increases the reliance and importance on the roster and the champion beefiness, like how many champions you have ascended as highly as possible, how many rank 5s you have as highly as possible. And that on top of it again helps, you know, less skilled, bigger accounts do better in Battlegrounds than they normally would do. So every single thing that they are introducing in the game is currently being designed to give competitive edge and advantage to the most, you know, giga chat spender accounts. So I'm definitely not a fan of that, and I do think collectives kind of extend into exactly the same realm by affecting PvP game modes. I think we would still all enjoy the collectives and use the collectives and try to rank up the collectives if it didn't affect the PvP. Because number one, it does have that novelty aspect of collections. You do want to get your collectives as high as possible because you get some crystals and you get extra benefits that you would use there. And like, again, alliance quests, coliseums, all that stuff's perfectly fine. And again, if it didn't affect PvP areas of the game, it would even, you know, be beneficial to just about everybody in the game. It would be nice for smaller accounts getting like a little boost, and as they would get, you know, something to look forward to as they are progressing and getting new champions that they might not never rank up. And they'll be getting, you know, again, better champions with better attack, defense, and stats and stuff like that. And obviously then, you know, the biggest accounts, the biggest whales would get the biggest benefits, and I think that would be a perfectly acceptable scenario. But again, once you pit it against other players, and once you turn that advantage towards other players, that equation changes drastically. So Kabam could have made this into a win for everybody if they didn't include this in PvP game modes. And they have turned it into a so-so situation for everybody except, you know, the whaleist of the players. In my opinion, that's the way I kind of see it. And this is, again, similar situation. For instance, Alliance Coliseum is notoriously like the shittiest new addition that they have made to the game recently. And they screwed that up with the podium levels that they sell tokens to upgrade, right? And that is, again, yet another example of Kabam kind of like shitifying a game mode because of monetization, or shitifying a feature because of the monetization. Because Alliance Coliseum would be much better feature, would be a much better thing if it didn't have the podium levels and only the health bars would decide, you know, your points. Done. But again, that would emphasize skill more than it emphasizes whaliness, so they just had to add the podium levels to it. Obviously, the 3 days is rubbish in Alliance Coliseum, which I also think only reason Alliance Coliseum is still 3 days is to give like an extra push for people to buy those tokens if they don't have the time to grind. So I genuinely do think, again, monetization is ruining that game mode, for instance, as monetization is currently ruining the Battlegrounds, as I do think monetization and the desire to give more competitive advantage to the whales has, you know, made objectively collective situation worse for people in the game that aren't whales. It's almost as if a group of whales had a meeting with Kabam, and Kabam has drastically changed the amount of benefits that you can buy in the game. Because don't get me wrong, you could always buy a shit ton of benefits, but evidently it wasn't enough, and Kabam is amping it to 11. And there we go. So overall, still, I kind of like collectives. Again, I just really wish they didn't affect competitive game modes. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about